Hello and welcome to this unit showcase video for Total War Warhammer 2, where we take a closer look at the unit stats and models for the Skaven army. So as you can see, we have all the Skaven units listed below. It's quite an extensive roster and there's very infantry heavy. All of these here you see are infantry, and quite a lot of ranged units as well. A couple of monstrous units and then some artillery. Now we didn't choose a legendary lord for this particular custom battle. We actually chose just a standard Grey Seer, and the reason why is because the Grey Seer gets a very cool mount in the form of the Screaming Bell, which is just wonderful. Although surprisingly not very loud when it rings. So let's just hide the UI and have a good look at this unit. So as you can see, you've got some weird glowy stuff. And I guess that's him up there. Is that the Grey Seer? He's actually riding the bell. You can see we've got a rat ogre back here pulling on it. But this is just amazing. This really is. I mean, he is having a grand old time up on that bell. Could be a little louder though. I mean, it's called a Screaming Bell, I believe. Look at him go. He's loving it. Okay, we should just probably not spend all of our time watching that, but it's very lovely. I guess let's take a look at, so the Grey Seer, he's the, like I said, we probably should have chosen the Lord, but I really wanted to take a look at that bell unit. So let's go to one of our heroes. We've got the Warlock Engineer. He's a Spellcaster and he's armor piercing. And he also has a special ability which is the Doom Rocket, a magic missile. So let's have a little zoom in on him. So he's got a lovely spear there which is all glowy and got that warp lightning coming out of it. See his little towel flickering around. Okay, so next up we have the Assassin, a melee specialist. Let's move him out of that long grass, because you can't see these Skaven that well when they're hidden like this. So he's got Stalk, so he can move hidden in any terrain. He's a duelist and he has Dodge, which allows him to... So this would be pretty handy against ranged units. So a few different special abilities: concealment bombs, slippery, melee defense and speed if you need to make a hasty retreat. It's got a nice little hood. Some very vicious looking daggers there. Little blood red towel. Can't see his face too well. Well, he's an assassin. He is meant to be stealthy. Okay, now last hero unit is a Plague Priest. So he's very similar to, I guess, Lord Skrulk, the legendary lord. Spellcaster, Plague Sensor. And Frenzy. So we can spawn a unit of Plague Monks, a Plague Spell, spawn a unit of Clan Rats. So these guys are probably pretty fun. And a Breath Spell, which I believe are pretty powerful. I've seen a few pre-release videos where I've seen this spell used and it does quite a lot of damage. They really seem to have buffed the magic in this game, at least from what I've seen in the pre-release stuff. Got a nice spiky ball. You can see what look like tumours and growths on him. It's a nasty looking unit. Okay. So then we get to our infantry. And let's go and have a pretty extensive selection of infantry. So you've got your basic Skaven slaves. These are sword infantry, they're expendable, they're meat shield. They have 0 armour. 0. a charge bonus of 5. But they are expendable. I imagine their upkeep is extremely low. So these are guys you're just going to throw in, you're not going to care. They're very hyped up, as you can see. All the Skaven seem to be a little excited. So then we have... Okay, so then we have the Skaven Slave Spears. So these guys are anti-large, but I don't know if they'll do much damage. I've chose a bonus of 3, 0 armor once again. So same guys basically, but with spears. So let's spin on from those and look at the clan rats. So this is when we're starting to get into slightly better quality. So we've got clan rats, and then we've also got clan rats with spears. So these are just the straight upgrade. They've got 25 armor, 10 charge, but they're still not great. They're still considered a meat shield unit, but let's turn them to face us a little bit. There we go. So as you can see, that they're more armoured, they're slightly better quality, they're still, I guess, technically what you'd call tier 1 infantry. But look at this guy, he's very excited, he's very eager to get going. And then next to them we have the spears. Everyone's facing the wrong way, we'll have to do something about that. Okay, so then we have the spear variation. They're gnawing on their own arms. They're very hungry, and of course food is an important mechanic for the Skaven in the campaign. Okay. So they're your basic standard infantry. So we start getting into some slightly more tough stuff. So we've got clan rats with shields, and then clan rat with spears and shields. Clan rat spears. So this is probably moving up now into tier 2. You can see the nice symbols on their shields there. These guys look really nice. Very expressive, very animated. And then we'll move over to the spear variant. So they're slowly getting tougher as we go down the line. Let's have a quick look at their stats. So 40 armor. Wait, I'm on the wrong guys. 25 armor, not quite so good. But it's better than the Skaven Slave, which have 0. So as you can see, there's a progression here from 0 armor, 25. But then you've got 25 with the shielded bonus. Okay, so now we move on to the slightly higher tier stuff. Plague Monks. So these are anti-infantry, they're damage dealers, and they get frenzy. Now do they get any other okay, so they get a scurry away ability, and they also get strength in numbers, which I believe is across all the Skaven units. So let's have a closer look at these guys. See some maces and swords. Got little bells around some of their necks, that's very cute. I love the way their tails are animated, that's really nice. You can see that kind of a smell coming off of them there. Okay, next up we have the Death Runners, dual sword infantry. Okay, so these guys are armoured, they're armour piercing. It keeps flicking onto the wrong guys. There we go. Okay, dual sword infantry. Weeping Blade, Stalk, Concealment Bombs and Dodge. What is Weeping Blade? Devours armour. So these are guys you really want to get on the heavily armoured opponents. Can move hidden in any terrain, concealment bombs. Concealment bombs. Effective when flanking. Okay, so it's a spell that essentially allows them to hide. could be useful for when retreating, and they also get dodge as well. So he's kind of like a unit of assassins, really. They've also got dual weapons. Okay, let's push on, because there's some really cool units that we're going to be coming to, and I'll probably spend longer on those. Okay, so now we're getting on to the really good infantry. Storm Vermin with the halberds. So these are armoured, they're armour piercing, they're anti-large. You can see armour 90, so significant increase. Pretty good leadership at 60. Pretty good weapon strength there as well. They also get the scurry away and strength in numbers. Take a closer look at their model. So you can see here they've got more armour, got some funky little helmets. Really nice detail on these guys. So these are going to be your top tier infantry, really, your main line, probably in the late game. These guys look vicious. You see that guy, he's got like a little mace on the end of his tail there. So they can swing their tail and do some damage as well. Okay, so after the Storm Vermin we have the Storm Vermin Sword and Shield variant. I swear these rats do not want to face the correct way. Well, they're very excited, they just want to get going. So, stat-wise they're very similar, but they have the swords as opposed to the halberds. So once again, these will be your late game infantry. And imagine these guys hold up fairly well even against the tougher infantry of other races, even though lizardmen may be. Okay, so then we have the Plague Monk Censer Bearers. So armor piercing, the damage dealers, and they get frenzy. So what's the difference between these and the normal infantry? So these are flower infantry, and the Plague Monks are dual swords. So those are anti-infantry. These are not anti-infantry, but they do get the Plague Censer trait. Doesn't really tell us what it does though. Warpstone dust and vile contagions fill this diabolical sensor. So I guess it causes maybe a debuff to nearby units. The Plague Monks don't get it. Okay. I'm not quite sure what that is. Be nice to have a little tooltip or something explaining what that is. Well, never mind. We'll probably find out when we do a campaign. So these guys are creepy looking. You can see the ground beneath them as if it's infected. These guys are creepy. They're like some bunch of weird cultists or something. And all their animations are in sync, which makes it even more weird and creepy, especially when all the other Skaven animations are just... But these guys keep turning around. They don't want to face one direction. I guess that's just the nature of the race. They don't know which way they're going. They just want to fight whatever's around them. These guys are a little more orderly. And I believe that is it for our infantry. So let's move on to our basic ranged units. You've got Skaven Slave Slingers, once again 0 armour. I imagine these guys could be fairly effective during the very early stages of the game. And these are your most basic units though. It looks like some of them have been whipped. Well, they are slaves, so that would make sense. And then you have the... Oh, so we go from Skaven Slave Slingers. Now, these can't fire on the move, apparently. And then we have the Night Runners. Now, these can fire whilst moving. These are decent melee combatants as well, and they get Vanguard deployment. So there's probably... Still very poor armor though, only 10, so you don't really want to get them into melee, I wouldn't think. Not with only 10 armor. And these are some weird looking guys. Especially that guy, look at that guy, he's a pretty funky looking dude. Okay, so then we've got the Night Runner variants with the slings. So let's compare these guys. So we've got missile damage 20, 13. Range is much better with the slings. So yeah, you're really sacrificing the range. And these guys can't fire whilst moving. I don't know. I'd probably rather just stick with the ordinary Night Runners. But then the range is quite a significant increase. Okay, let's move on to the Poisoned Wind Globadiers, if that's how you say it. So they get Poisoned Wind Globes. So they release poison gas. They're armoured, they're armour-piercing missiles, and anti-large. 100 armour, that's pretty damn good. But you get 48 in a unit, that's not too bad. I love their little masks, their little gas masks. Let's just swing around. So you can see the globes that they throw on their backs. And they've got a little tank. And these guys are also very excitable. Okay, so then we go to the flamethrower infantry. Now these guys look super fun to use in a fight. So they have very high missile damage, 112. Armor's not too bad at 40. The anti-infantry, the damage dealers. You get these guys into the flank of an enemy army and they are going to tear a hole. And they just look cool. You've got 2 rats per unit. One guy holding the big gun at the front and the other guy carrying the big tank as a support. And that guy loves what he does. He loves his job and you can't blame him. This guy's at the back. He just has to do what he's told. So that is a big tank. So you have quite a bit of ammunition, I imagine. Ammunition 18. How does that compare to some of the others? So the Globadiers, ammunition 12, 22 for the slings. So still pretty hefty amount of ammunition. Only 10 for the Night Runners. But yeah, these guys are very cool looking. Okay, so let's go Gutter Runner Slingers. Okay, well, so what makes these guys special? They have a snare net, so that's different. Short range throw and attack that slows the target. Missile damage, range very high. Now remember, this is a release build and I'm sure some of these stats are going to be tweaked over time. That's why we're not going to get too in depth on them. So you can see they've got like a little trap they're holding in their hands there that they can use to slow people down. They've got those vicious looking daggers. Okay, so then we come to... so we've even got... there's quite a lot of these ranged infantry. So then we've got Gutter Runners. So you've got Gutter Runner Slingers and then you've got Gutter Runners. These also have the snare net, but these can fire whilst moving. They don't get the dodge ability, but they can fire whilst moving. So they look very similar. What's the range? Range 70 compared to 140. So the slingers have the best range. I like their weapons. Nice little pieces of decoration on them. Should try to find a map without so much long grass. The Skaven, because they tend to be small and hunched up. Hard to see them. But we're going to be moving on to some bigger units in a moment. Okay, so then we have the poison variants. So we've got gutter runner slingers with poison and just normal gutter runners with poison. So they're the same as the previous units, but they have poison attacks, which are good because poison does damage over time. So I'd be curious to know what the upkeep cost on these guys is in campaign, whether it's worth getting it for that extra damage they do over time. So we'll just gloss over these guys, and we're going to move on to our last ranged unit, which is the Death Globe Bombardiers. And they're cool and they're purple, which makes them cooler than the previous Bombardiers. So let's have a look at what's the difference between these guys. We've got Poisoned Wind Bombardiers, Poisoned Wind Globes, Armoured Armour-Piercing Missiles, and Anti-Large. And these are Death Globes. So what is the difference? A Death Globe, a magical gas. So it's more stable than used in Poisoned Wind Globes, it hangs in the air longer and spreads further. So it's anti-infantry, whereas these guys aren't considered anti-infantry, these are considered anti-large. So you want the Poisoned Wind guys more on large units, and the Death Globe more on the infantry units. So let's take a close look at these guys, because they're fun little units. He almost looks like he's dancing. Should make a Warhammer 2 music video, just have the Skaven dancing. So yeah, so for reference, Death Globes good for large infantry units, Poisoned Wind good for monstrous units. And speaking of monstrous units, we're now going to go to our Rat Ogres. So these get armor piercing, they get frenzy. Armor's still not that high, but good leadership, good speed, very good weapon strength, fairly decent charge bonus. And you would not want one of these charging at you. Got a very nasty large ball on the end of their arm there. You can see that they've been stitched together. And they've got some kind of, I guess, warpstone infused in their bodies. I've said before I'm not a Warhammer lore guy, so I really don't know. But that's what it looks like. It looks like they've been stitched together and then animated with warpstone. And we can just zoom out there because we've got one trying to get into the shot. He wants some love, he wants some attention. Of course these guys, though, they're not even the star of the show. So shall we do the hell pit? No, we're going to leave the hell pit till last, and we're going to go to the Plague Claw catapult. Look at this guy, he loves it. He's gnawing on the handle. So these are Plague Claw Contagion, Armor Piercing and Anti-Infantry. I've seen a few streams with these and they're very effective, especially in numbers. So you've got a little unit of rats to support. And you've got the one guy on the back who just can't wait to start shooting. And next to them we have the, I have to check what these are called, the Warp Lightning Cannon, Armor Piercing Missiles, Anti-Large. So these are good if you want to, oh my god, look at that guy, he has a little telescope, that is adorable. We're going to zoom in on him, look at him, he is wrapped around that pole, hanging on for dear life, using his little telescope to zoom in and target the enemy. And there are people who said that this game was a reskin. This is clearly no reskin. There is nothing like this in Warhammer 1 at all. That guy is amazing. So this is really good if you want to snipe large enemy units. Let's take a quick look at his stats. Missile damage 158, range 400, really good range. It's very good. I mean, it says it's anti-infantry. Oh wait, we're on the... I really need to lock that down so it stops being lost. So missile damage 194, range even better, 430. So you really want to use this to snipe large. I mean, imagine if you're coming up against the lizard men. They've got Carnosaur. This is the unit you want targeting it. So it looks like it's going to be quite a precise precision artillery piece. And then we go to the... Okay, do you want to do first? We're going to do the Hell Pit last. And we're going to go to the Doom Wheel, which is a fan favourite. Has an ability called Zap. So this sort of shoots out this green lightning in different directions as hitting enemy units. It's armoured, it's armour piercing and anti-infantry. 280 weapon strength, that's excellent. A lot of ammunition, which I guess is for the lightning it throws off. But yeah, these guys really tear it up. And you just want these just charging through enemy units, tearing a hole. You can see the guy is driving in there. He's got his hands on the little steering controls. And look at this. There's tiny, tiny little rats in the wheel. I didn't even know they were there. I haven't seen that in any of the streams. There are actually tiny rats. Look at these guys. I mean, they've even got little they've got little tumours and cuts on them. And most people are never even going to see this. They'll never bother zooming in. They'll never be. So, you know, I guess not as many people are going to want to zoom in as much as I do on these little units and the detail. I love doing it. That's why I'm doing these videos. And most people are probably just going to miss these entirely. These look great. And I've seen the Doom Wheel in a few videos and I've never seen this. And then you've got this guy on the back who's just desperately pumping it away to try and get the wheel going, I guess. I don't know what that's for. I guess that powers the whole thing. Poor guy has to do that all day. Yeah, you can see why this is a fan favourite. Look at them go, they got little mouths open. That's so adorable. They're desperate. I almost wanted to start the battle just to watch them run around. But I'll probably do that in my Skaven campaign. Okay, so now onto our last unit. It has to be the Hell Pit Abomination. It's too horrible to die. It's armour piercing, it causes terror, and it has regeneration. Now, from what I know, if this dies in battle, there's a chance. Here it is, the rat submerged. So if it... Okay, so that's a special ability. Okay, here it is, too horrible to die. So if it dies, there's a chance of it either regaining hit points, or I believe it actually then spawns a unit of clan rats, maybe, or Skaven Slave Spears. So it can either do one of two things. Like when it's down to 0 health, it will either regen its health, or it will spawn a small unit. Causes terror, of course, which isn't surprising. So we're going to spend a few minutes looking at this guy because, well, look at it. It is fantastic. I'm not quite sure what the hell it is. It looks like dozens and dozens of things cobbled and stitched together. I could have just made a whole video about this one unit. I mean, look at it. You got a little wheel under there. I might put this on slow-mo in a minute so we can take a better look at its heads. It seems to have a lot of heads. Okay, we're gonna slow things down for a moment. Now I can't slow things down yet, so we're gonna start the battle quick. We're gonna put it on slow motion because we want to take a closer look at this guy. And actually, if we pause it there we go. Look at this. So it looks like he's got a load of different rat heads sewn into him. That's just weird and creepy. But it's an amazing looking unit. Really nice texture work. And before we go, we're gonna have to do that doom wheel. So we're just gonna send it off this way. Okay, there we go. Let's put it on slow motion so we can see those little rats. There they go. Those little rats running their little socks off, and it's going to plough straight through our rat ogres. Oh, they don't mind. They're rat ogres. They don't care. So I hope you enjoyed this look at the Skaven army. I've enjoyed it, and you know the Skaven are a pretty cool looking race. You can see our artillery just started firing. And look at these guys, there's just so many of them, so many different, I mean a lot of these infantry, yeah, it's a standard progression, spears, swords, slightly upgraded tier 2, tier 3, but they are meant to be a horde, so you just overwhelm with numbers, and they certainly have the numbers. And as we can see, we're just running down this line of just infantry here, there's just so many. And then you got cool stuff like this, the guy riding the bell. You see him lining up his shot there. They're preparing another volley. See if we can get these guys shooting. Just there we go. He's firing another shot off there. So you guys gonna fire? There you go. Okay, I should probably wrap this up. Well, I mean, I could watch these guys all day. So that is the Skaven, ladies and gentlemen. They're very interested in the selection because, like I said, a lot of infantry, a lot of ranged, just a handful, just 2 monstrous units. There's some very different artillery pieces there. One more for sniping. And you got some bad guys coming in there. So yeah, pretty interesting army. I mean, I've done one of these for the Lizard Men, and I've now done one for Skaven. I'm still not quite decided who I'm going to start with yet. I've got to take a look at the Dark Elves and the High Elves. Out of the two, between Lizard Men and Skaven, I'm still leaning more towards Lizard Men because dinosaurs riding dinosaurs. But these rat men, they are pretty fun. They got some fun little units there. Okay, well, we'll see. We've got to do the other 2 races first anyway. So I will be getting on with that, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.